triple thick McDonald's shakes. Why, they're empty.
The McDonald's on Camden Street always had a line snaking around the lobby during dinner rush. Tonight was no exception, and Maya stood impatiently, watching the minutes tick by. Her apartment was a 20-minute walk, and she preferred to be home before darkness became too oppressive. Her phone buzzed, a text from her roommate Emma, asterisk still out with David. Don't wait up, asterisk. Excuse me. Maya turned to find a man standing beside her. He was unremarkable, average height, plain face, brown hair cut short. The only distinctive feature was a small birthmark below his left eye, shaped like a teardrop. I only need a water. My medication. He held up a prescription bottle. I'd really appreciate it if I could jump ahead. Maya hesitated but nodded. Sure, go ahead. You're very kind, he said, his smile not reaching his eyes. He moved in front of her, and Maya felt a momentary flash of virtue. The feeling vanished when he reached the counter. I'll have a double quarter-pounder meal with large fries, a 10-piece nugget, and a large Coke. Maya's mouth fell open. The water excuse had been a blatant lie. The man paid and left without looking back. When it was finally her turn, she ordered quickly. The man was nowhere to be seen. Maya's annoyance lingered as she walked into the night. Camden Street was quiet, illuminated only by sporadic streetlights. 3 blocks from the restaurant, she noticed footsteps behind her. Not unusual, but something about their rhythm made her uneasy. Too steady, too deliberate. She quickened her pace, and the footsteps accelerated to match. At the corner of Elm and 23rd, Maya stopped and turned. It was him. The birthmark below his eye appeared darker now, less like a teardrop and more like a scar. Are you following me? She demanded. He tilted his head. Following you? We're just walking in the same direction. You lied about the water. His lips curled into a smile. Did I? That's an interesting accusation. Leave me alone, or I'm calling the police. For what? Walking on a public sidewalk? He stepped closer. I think you owe me an apology. Maya fumbled for her phone. As she pulled it out, he lunged forward, knocking it from her hand. Oops, he said flatly. When Maya bent to retrieve it, she felt cold liquid splash across her back. The man had emptied his Coke over her. What the hell? She shouted. You're so gullible, he whispered, his face inches from hers. You let me in line because you wanted to feel good about yourself. But you don't know me. You don't know what I'm capable of. A car turned onto the street, its headlights illuminating them. The man stepped back, his expression changing to one of concern. Oh my God, are you okay? He called loudly. The car slowed, then continued on. Smart girl, he murmured when they were alone again. Now pick up your phone and walk away. Don't look back. Don't call anyone. Maya grabbed her phone and ran, not stopping until she reached her apartment building. Inside, she locked the door, checked it 3 times, and took a long, hot shower before collapsing into bed, staring at the ceiling until dawn. This is just the beginning of the nightmare. What comes next will make you question everything you thought you knew about safety, strangers, and the walls we build to protect ourselves. Asterisk asterisk. 3 days passed. Maya called in sick, ordered delivery, and jumped at every sound. Emma noticed but attributed it to stress. On the 4th day, a package arrived with Maya's name handwritten on the label. No return address. Inside was a McDonald's cup with a post-it note, asterisk I know where you live now. Thanks for letting me cut in line, asterisk. That night she slept with a kitchen knife under her pillow. In the morning, Emma showed her their location sharing app. It displayed 3 dots instead of 2, Emma, Maya, and friend. They deleted the app and changed all passwords. Maya filed a police report, but the officer seemed skeptical. We can't do much with just a cup and an app glitch. A week passed without incident. Maya began to wonder if she had overreacted. She resumed her routine but avoided that McDonald's. Then came the photos in her email. Pictures of her walking to work, at her bus stop, getting coffee. The email had no text, just images from Line Jumper 23. Maya went to the police again. This time, they took the stalking seriously but explained there was little they could do without knowing the stalker's identity. That night, as Maya packed to stay at her sister's place, Emma called out, "There's a guy outside, just standing there, looking up at our window." Maya peered through the blinds. There he was, the birthmark visible even from a distance. When police arrived, he was gone. For 2 weeks, Maya stayed with her sister. She got a restraining order against an unknown stalker, carried pepper spray, and changed her routines. Slowly, the fear receded until her sister's neighbor mentioned seeing a man checking mailboxes. Average-looking guy, but he had this weird mark under his eye, like a teardrop. Maya moved to a friend's house in another part of the city. 3 days later, a McDonald's cup appeared on the doorstep. The police increased patrols but found nothing. They suggested Maya leave town, but running felt like defeat. Instead, she decided to watch for him. She studied every face, checked reflections, became hyper-aware of her surroundings. 1 month after their first encounter, she saw him in a coffee shop across from her workplace, a McDonald's cup beside him. Maya called her police contact, Officer Chin. "He's here. The stalker. At the Starbucks on Wilson Avenue. Stay where you are. Units are on the way." But the man calmly left before police arrived. Without thinking, Maya followed him to an apartment building in an unfamiliar area. She noted the address and called Chin. 20 minutes after police entered, Chen emerged. "We checked every apartment. There's no one matching your description. The residents didn't recognize him." "That's impossible. I watched him go in. There's a back exit," Chen said. "But there's something else. A man was murdered in that building 3 years ago. Daniel Watkins." She showed Maya a photo. "Is this your stalker?" "Same height. Same face. Same hair. Same birthmark." "That's him," Maya whispered. "Daniel Watkins was stabbed to death in a robbery. The case is unsolved," Chen explained. "According to the file, he was a regular at the McDonald's on Camden Street. The restaurant set up a memorial for him, a reserved table with a cup of water." That night, in a hotel room arranged by police, Maya searched online for Daniel Watkins. In his final social media post, hours before his death, he'd written, "Some woman just let me cut in line at McD's. People can be so gullible sometimes. #FreeMeal*. Maya closed her laptop, hands shaking. Was she being haunted? Was someone impersonating a dead man? She finally fell asleep near dawn. When she woke, a McDonald's cup sat on her nightstand, empty, clean, new. Written on the bottom was a room number, 414. She called Officer Chin, who told her to lock her door and wait. But Maya wanted answers. Room 414 was at the end of the hall. The door swung open at her touch. Inside sat a middle-aged woman with graying hair. "I've been waiting for you," she said. "I'm Daniel's mother. I don't understand. When Daniel died, I was consumed by grief. I thought I was losing my mind until I realized he was showing me something." She opened a laptop displaying surveillance footage from McDonald's, dated 3 years ago. Maya saw Daniel at the counter. Behind him in line was herself with different hair. "You don't remember him because he was nobody to you," the woman continued. "But that night, after you let him cut in front of you, someone followed him home from McDonald's. Someone killed him. But I didn't." "Of course you didn't kill him," she interrupted. "But you saw the killer." She showed a different image, the person in line behind Maya. A nondescript face with a distinctive birthmark under the left eye. "My son's killer had a birthmark just like Daniel's," the woman said calmly. "I created the stalking campaign to force you to be vigilant, to look for faces, to remember. And it worked. You led me straight to him." From the bathroom emerged Officer Chin, but not quite. This wasn't a police officer at all. The resemblance was there, but this woman was older, harder. "Thank you, Maya," the fake Chin said. We know where he lives now. Justice for Daniel is finally possible. This is insane. You've been terrorizing me for what? Revenge? For justice, Daniel's mother corrected. The police failed us. I'm calling the real police, Maya said. Go ahead. Tell them everything. By the time they sort it all out, it will be done. Maya fled the room. As the elevator doors closed, she caught a final glimpse of the two women watching from room 414. She never returned to that hotel or her apartment. Never contacted the police. She moved to another city, changed her name, erased her former life. But sometimes, when she passes a McDonald's, she glimpses a man with a birthmark watching from the window. And sometimes, when she returns home, there's a cup waiting, empty, clean, and new. She never stands in line anymore. She knows what can happen when you let someone cut ahead, when you become an unwitting link in a chain that spirals beyond control. She knows that some lines, once crossed, can never be uncrossed. And she knows that somewhere, a mother is still seeking justice, pursuing a killer who shares her son's face, connected forever by a birthmark like a teardrop and a stranger who once stood in line. Car approaching. The headset crackled in Amber's ear. Black sedan, looks like a repeat. Amber felt her stomach tighten as she peered through the drive-thru window. It was 2:17 a.m., and the McDonald's parking lot was an island of harsh fluorescent light surrounded by suburban darkness. The sedan, a late model Camry with tinted windows, rolled to a stop at the menu board. Got it, she replied, trying to keep her voice steady. 3 weeks into the overnight shift, and already she had regulars. Most were harmless: insomniac seniors, hospital staff on breaks, college kids with late-night cravings. But the black sedan was different. It had appeared 5 nights in a row now, always between 2 and 3 a.m., always driven by a man whose face Amber could never quite see clearly. He always ordered the same thing, a large black coffee, no sugar, no cream. Always paid with exact change. Always parked in the furthest corner of the lot after receiving his order, where he would sit with the engine running for exactly 17 minutes before driving away. Welcome to McDonald's. May I take your order? Marcus's voice from the speaker sounded cheerful, professional. No one would guess he was tracking the sedan's visits in a note on his phone. The drive-thru lane had been Marcus's idea after the second night. You take orders inside, I'll take drive-thru, he'd suggested. Just to be safe. At 22, Marcus was only 3 years older than Amber, but his protective nature made him seem much older. Night shift manager was his first real responsibility, and he took it seriously. Large black coffee, came the response through the speaker, a low, monotone voice that made Amber's skin crawl. That'll be $1.79. Please pull forward to the window. As the sedan rolled forward, Amber stepped back from the window, letting Marcus take her place. A small precaution that had become part of their routine. Evening, sir, Marcus said as he took the exact change and handed over the coffee. Have a good night. The man said nothing, just took the coffee with a gloved hand and drove to his usual spot in the corner of the lot. That's 7 nights now, Marcus said, letting the professional smile drop from his face. I'm calling the police after he leaves. And tell them what? Amber asked. That someone keeps buying coffee? That's not a crime. It's suspicious behavior. They should at least drive by and check him out. Amber said nothing, but she agreed. There was something wrong about the man in the sedan. Something that made her check the locks on her car before leaving for home each morning. The night continued with the usual trickle of customers. A group of giggling teenagers ordering enough food for twice their number. A truck driver grabbing a quick meal before getting back on the highway. An elderly woman who ordered a Happy Meal because, as she explained to Amber, the regular portions are just too big for me, dear. At 4:30 a.m., an hour before the morning crew arrived, Amber was cleaning the shake machine when she noticed something odd. The black sedan was back, pulling into the drive-thru lane for a second time that night. Marcus, she called toward the office, where he was doing the night's paperwork. He's back. Marcus appeared at her side, frowning as he observed the car approaching the speaker. "I'll take this," he said, putting on his headset. "Welcome to McDonald's. May I take your order?" No response. "Hello? Can I take your order, please?" Still nothing, but the car remained at the speaker. "Maybe his window is stuck," Amber suggested, though she didn't believe it. "I'm going out there," Marcus said, removing his headset. "What?" "No, don't." But Marcus was already heading for the side door that led to the drive-thru lane. Amber watched through the window as he approached the car cautiously. The driver's window was rolled up, but even from inside, Amber could see Marcus's body language change, his shoulders stiffening, his steps faltering. He returned moments later, his face drained of color. "Call the police," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Why? What's happening?" "It's not the same guy. It's a woman. She's just sitting there, staring straight ahead. He swallowed hard. "There's blood on her face. A lot of blood." Amber's hands trembled as she dialed 911. The dispatcher asked questions she could barely process. "Is the person conscious? Is she responding? How much blood? Where does the blood appear to be coming from?" "Stay inside, lock the doors, and wait for officers to arrive," the dispatcher finally instructed. "They're on their way." Marcus locked all the doors except the front entrance, where they would meet the police. They stood together at the front window, watching the sedan. It hadn't moved, the driver still invisible behind the tinted glass. "What if she's hurt? Shouldn't we help her?" Amber asked. The dispatcher said to wait. If someone attacked her, they could still be around. The thought sent a chill through Amber's body. Her eyes scanned the dark parking lot, the empty street beyond, the shadows between the streetlights. The police arrived 7 minutes later, 2 patrol cars, their lights flashing but sirens off. 4 officers approached the sedan cautiously, hands near their weapons. One of them tapped on the window, then spoke into a radio on his shoulder. Another tried the door handle. What happened next would replay in Amber's nightmares for months to come. The woman in the car suddenly became animated, turning toward the officers, her face now visible in the harsh parking lot lights. Even from a distance, Amber could see the blood that covered the lower half of her face and neck, that matted her hair in dark clumps. The woman lunged for the door as an officer opened it. There was a brief struggle, then the officers had her on the ground, handcuffed. One officer returned to the patrol car, while another approached the restaurant. "You the ones who called this in?" he asked when Marcus opened the door. They nodded. "You did the right thing. Did either of you see anything before we arrived? Any interaction with the woman?" "No," Marcus answered. "She just pulled up to the speaker and sat there. Wouldn't respond." The officer nodded, taking notes. "We're going to need statements from both of you." "Is she hurt?" Amber asked. "All that blood." The officer's expression darkened. "It's not her blood. This is just the beginning of the nightmare. What happens next defies all expectations, pulling you deeper into a darkness that exists in the shadows of everyday life. ***. The officer took their statements, asking about the previous visits from the black sedan, about the man who ordered coffee every night. He seemed particularly interested in the gloves. "Did you notice anything else about him? Any distinguishing features? Accent? Jewelry?" They had little to offer. The man had been unremarkable in almost every way, his face always partially obscured by the angle of his car, the tint of the windows, the shadow of a baseball cap. "We'll need to review your security footage," the officer said. "All of it, from every night he was here." By the time the morning crew arrived, the police had cordoned off a section of the parking lot around the sedan. More officers had arrived, along with people in plain clothes whom Amber assumed were detectives. There was also an ambulance, but it left empty. Marcus and Amber were sent home early, told to get some rest and to be available for further questions. On her way to her car, Amber overheard 2 officers talking. "Third one this month. Same MO. Jesus. And still no ID on the guy? Nothing solid. White male, 30s to 40s, keeps his face hidden. Ditches the cars miles from the scenes. Professional. Amber drove home in a daze, checking her rearview mirror at every stop. When she arrived at her apartment, she double-locked the door and collapsed onto her bed, still in her grease-stained uniform. She woke to knocking at her door. The digital clock on her nightstand read 3:42 p.m. She had been asleep for just over 6 hours. The knocking continued, more insistent. "Ms. Chun? This is Detective Wilson with the County Sheriff's Office. I need to speak with you." Amber opened the door to find a tall woman with short gray hair and tired eyes standing in the hallway. She showed her badge. "May I come in? I have some questions about last night." Seated at Amber's small kitchen table, Detective Wilson opened a folder containing photographs. "I need to know if you recognize this man." The photos showed a driver's license. A man with close-cropped dark hair, a sharp nose, thin lips. Unremarkable except for a small scar near his right eye. "I don't think so," Amber said. "But I never got a good look at the man in the sedan." "What about him?" Wilson slid another photo across the table. This one was a security camera image showing a man in a baseball cap standing at a counter. Though his face was partially angled away from the camera, something about his posture, the set of his shoulders, triggered a flicker of recognition. Maybe. It could be him. It's hard to say for sure. Wilson nodded, as if expecting this answer. "His name is Lawrence Mercer. We believe he's responsible for at least 4 abductions and murders in the past month, including the woman's husband last night." Amber felt the blood drain from her face. "What?" "The woman in the car, Alice Donovan. Her husband was reported missing yesterday evening. This morning, a jogger found his body in Riverdale Park. And she killed him," Wilson said bluntly. "But not of her own volition. We believe she was coerced by Mercer, possibly through threats or drugging. We found a note in the car." Wilson hesitated, then continued. "It said I made her do it. I can make anyone do anything." "Who's next?" A wave of nausea washed over Amber. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you and your manager may have had extended contact with a serial killer. He wasn't just getting coffee. He was surveilling your restaurant, establishing a pattern, looking for targets." Wilson's eyes locked onto Amber's. "And he might have been watching you." The detective left an hour later, after asking dozens more questions about the sedan, about regular customers, about Amber's personal life and routines. She advised Amber to stay with friends for a few days, to vary her routes to work, to be vigilant. That night, Amber called in sick. So did Marcus. The following day, McDonald's corporate sent security personnel to the restaurant. New protocols were implemented. No employee would work alone. The parking lot lighting was enhanced. Additional cameras were installed. 2 weeks passed with no sign of Mercer or the black sedan. The investigation continued, but updates became less frequent. Life began to resume its normal rhythm. Then Amber received a text from a number she didn't recognize. "I miss our nightly coffee. You were always so kind. See you soon, *. She reported it to Detective Wilson immediately. The number was traced to a burner phone, already discarded. Police protection was arranged for Amber's apartment building. 3 days later, Marcus disappeared. His car was found abandoned in the McDonald's parking lot after his shift. No signs of struggle. No witnesses. Just an empty coffee cup on the driver's seat. Large, black, no sugar, no cream. Amber was relocated to a safe house outside the city. Days stretched into weeks with no word about Marcus. The investigation hit dead end after dead end. Mercer had vanished. 1 month after Marcus's disappearance, Amber received a package at the safe house, an address that was supposed to be known only to the police. Inside was a McDonald's name tag. Marcus's name tag, spattered with what lab tests would later confirm was his blood. Pinned to it was a note, * he didn't want to help me. Will you, *. Amber moved across the country after that, changed her name, her appearance, her entire life. But sometimes, when she's driving late at night and sees golden arches glowing in the distance, she feels a familiar tightness in her stomach. And when she passes a black sedan in a parking lot, she can't help but check if the engine is running, if someone is waiting inside, watching. Because she knows the truth now, some predators don't hide in the shadows. They hide in routines. In everyday transactions. In the mundane exchanges we never think twice about. And sometimes they come back for a second order. The first time Diane noticed him was on a Tuesday. Not because there was anything remarkable about him, quite the opposite. In a small town like Millfield, new faces stood out. But this man had a way of not standing out at all. Average height. Average build. Brown hair that wasn't quite dark, wasn't quite light. Age somewhere between 35 and 50. He wore the uniform of rural America, jeans, work boots, plain t-shirt under a zip-up hoodie. Nothing memorable except for how unmemorable he was. Diane had managed the Millfield McDonald's for 11 years. She knew most customers by name, and their orders before they reached the counter. This was where retirees claimed the same table every day, where high school kids descended at 3:15 p.m., where truckers stopped for coffee at predictable intervals. The stranger ordered a quarter-pounder with cheese, large fries, and a Diet Coke. Paid cash. Sat in the corner booth with a view of the entire restaurant. Ate methodically, eyes scanning the room between bites. 2 days later he returned. Same order. Same booth. Same watchful eyes. And again the following day. And the next. By the end of the week, Diane had nicknamed him the regular. He came at exactly 2:47 p.m. daily, just after lunch rush but before the after-school crowd. The restaurant was always emptiest then. That guy gives me the creeps. Zoe, the 17-year-old cashier, whispered on day 5. He never looks at his phone. Just watches everyone. Some older folks aren't glued to screens like you kids, Diane replied, but she had noticed too. In an era where solo diners buried faces in smartphones, his constant awareness was disconcerting. On day 8, he approached the counter where Diane was refilling napkins. "Excuse me," he said softly, no discernible accent. "I'm new to town. Are there any community events coming up? Places where I might meet people?" Diane hesitated before her customer service instincts kicked in. "The high school has football games Fridays. There's a farmer's market Saturday mornings. And the community center runs programs." She pointed to a bulletin board covered with flyers. He thanked her with a smile that didn't reach his eyes and studied the bulletin board before leaving. That evening, locking up after closing, Diane noticed the sedan parked across the street, its interior dark. Something made her hurry to her car, checking over her shoulder twice. The regular didn't appear the next day, or the day after. Diane found herself watching the door at 2:47 p.m. "Missing your admirer?" joked Miguel, the shift supervisor. Diane forced a laugh. "Just wondering if we lost a customer." On Friday night, Diane's daughter Rachel had a volleyball game. During the second set, Diane went to use the restroom. On her way back, she passed a display of student artwork. A man stood examining the pieces. The regular. He turned as she approached. "Hello again. I took your advice about community events." "Oh," Diane managed, mouth dry. "Enjoying the game?" "Very much. Such talented young athletes." He gestured to the artwork. "This community has a lot to offer." A chill ran through Diane. "My daughter's playing tonight. I should get back." "Of course. Which one is yours?" Every parental instinct screamed at Diane not to answer. "Number 12, she lied. Rachel was number 7. He nodded. "I'll watch for her." The words followed Diane back to the gym, settling like a weight in her stomach. She texted her husband, "Everything okay there?" "All good," came the reply. "How's the game going?" After the game, Diane hurried Rachel to the car, scanning the parking lot nervously. "Mom, what's wrong? Aren't we going for ice cream with the team?" "Not tonight, honey. I've got a headache." That night, Diane checked the locks twice before bed, something she rarely did in their safe town. She considered mentioning the regular to her husband Brian but decided against it. What would she say? A man came to McDonald's and a school event? That he gave her a strange feeling? The next morning, Diane took her son Tyler to Saturday soccer practice. As Tyler joined his teammates, Diane settled onto the bleachers. Mind if I sit here? The regular stood at the end of her row. He wore a baseball cap, but the same neutral expression. Diane's heart rate doubled. It's a public park. He sat, leaving a respectable distance. For several minutes, they watched the children in silence. Which one is yours? He finally asked. Diane pointed to a boy on the opposite side from Tyler. Blue shorts, number 9. The regular nodded. Athletic family? Your daughter was impressive last night. Number 7, right? The tall one with the powerful serve? Ice flooded Diane's veins. He knew she had lied. He had watched Rachel. I think you have us confused with someone else, she said, gathering her purse. Excuse me, I need to make a call. She called Brian, asking him to check on Rachel, who was supposedly at a friend's house. Brian confirmed she was safe, and Diane explained about the man following their family. Did he threaten you? The kids? Brian asked. No, not directly. He's just there. Watching. Maybe he's new in town and going to community events? This doesn't sound like much. You haven't seen him, Brian. Something's off. The way he looks at people, at the kids. Brian came to the practice. There was no sign of the regular. This is just the beginning of the nightmare. What happens next will make you question the safety of even the most familiar places in your community. Asterisk asterisk. Sunday passed without incident. Monday brought a return to routine. Diane drove the kids to school before heading to McDonald's. At 2:42 p.m., her phone chimed with a text from an unknown number. Looking forward to seeing you at 2:47. She stared at the screen, going cold. How did he have her number? Diane hurried to the main floor, telling Miguel to text her if the regular appeared. She waited in her locked car, watching the entrance. 2:47 came and went. No sign of him. At 2:52, Miguel texted, asterisk no sign of quarter-pounder guy. You coming back in, asterisk. Then another text from the unknown number, asterisk change of plans. Thought I'd visit Rachel's school instead. Dismissal is at 3:15, right? Asterisk. Panic surged through Diane. She sped toward the high school, calling Rachel repeatedly. No answer. She called the school office to warn them about the man. Can you describe this person? The administrative assistant asked. Diane realized with horror how generic her description would sound. Average everything. I'm 5 minutes away, she said. Coming to get my daughter. At the school, a security guard met her. We've been watching the entrances. No unauthorized visitors have entered. Diane texted Rachel to meet her. When Rachel appeared, Diane hurried her to the car. Mom, what's going on? Rachel asked as they drove away. Diane explained about the man from McDonald's, the texts her fear. Rachel's expression changed from confusion to concern. Have you told the police? We don't have proof he's done anything wrong. But he has your number. He knows our schedules. That's stalking. At the police station, an officer took her statement but confirmed what she feared. Without evidence of an actual threat, there wasn't much they could do. Save the text messages, the officer advised. Document every encounter. That evening, Brian took Diane's concerns more seriously. They agreed the kids wouldn't go anywhere alone. They changed their home's security code. Diane alerted her staff at McDonald's about the man. 3 days passed without sign of the regular or more texts. Diane wondered if their precautions had scared him off. On Thursday night, Diane woke to the security system chiming, the alert that a door or window had opened. She shook Brian awake. Someone's in the house, she whispered. Brian grabbed a baseball bat and moved toward the door. Diane checked the security panel. The kitchen door was open. I'm calling 911, she said. As she reached for her phone, it lit up with a text: "You should really change the batteries in your smoke detectors. Brian, he's in the house. Right now." Brian barricaded their bedroom door and called 911. They huddled with the kids in the master bathroom, listening for any sound. The police arrived minutes later. They searched the house but found no one. The kitchen door was unlocked and ajar, but without signs of forced entry. Nothing missing. "Could you have forgotten to lock it?" the officer asked. "We triple-checked everything. And look at this." She showed him the text message. The officer frowned. "I recommend you stay somewhere else tonight." They checked into a hotel. The next day, they installed additional security cameras and changed all locks. That afternoon, another text arrived: "New locks won't help when I already have what I need." Attached was a photo of their house key. They had a security consultant install a sophisticated alarm system. The police promised increased patrols. That night, as they ate dinner, Brian's phone rang. He answered, then put it on speaker. "I've been watching your family for 19 days now." The soft voice was unmistakably the regular's. "Your routines. Your habits. Your security measures. Did you know your daughter leaves her bedroom window unlocked? That your son walks to his friend's house alone every Tuesday? That you, Brian, stop for coffee at the same gas station every morning at 5:47? Brian's face paled. "What do you want from us?" "I want you to know how easy it would be. How vulnerable you are. How little your precautions matter." A pause. "And I want you to know that next time, it won't be your family. Because now you'll be watching for me. The next family won't." The line went dead. The Mercers filed for an emergency restraining order, though they didn't know the regular's real name. Police traced the phone number to a burner phone purchased with cash. No surveillance footage available. For weeks, they lived in high alert. The kids went nowhere alone. Diane took leave from work. But the regular never contacted them again. Never returned to McDonald's. Vanished as abruptly as he had appeared. 6 months later, when they had finally started to relax, Diane saw a news item from a town 40 miles away. A family of 4 had disappeared overnight. No signs of forced entry. The father managed the local McDonald's. Diane showed Brian the article. "It's him. He's done what he promised." 2 weeks later, the missing family was found safe in a motel 2 states away. They had fled after weeks of escalating harassment from an unidentified man who had begun as a regular customer at their restaurant. A man of average height and build. Unmemorable except for his methodical surveillance. The news brought Diane no relief. She found herself watching the door at work, tensing whenever a new customer entered. Checking the parking lot before walking to her car. Because she knew what no one else seemed to understand. The regular wasn't just one man. He wasn't after one family. He was a hunter testing his methods, refining his approach with each new target. And somewhere, in some other ordinary town, at some other ordinary McDonald's, he was becoming a regular all over again. Watching. Waiting. Learning the patterns of unsuspecting lives. And no one would notice him until it was too late. Jessica first noticed the napkin on a Tuesday. A plain white McDonald's napkin folded neatly beside Register 3, her assigned station. Its precise placement caught her attention, centered exactly, with a tiny red dot in the middle. She crumpled it and tossed it away. Just another piece of trash in an endless day of clearing them. Jessica was 19, working full-time at McDonald's while taking night classes. Her life was a blur of golden arches, textbooks, and too brief sleep. The napkin didn't register as important. Until she found another one the next day. Same spot. Same neat fold. Same red dot. This time, Jessica examined it more closely. The red spot was perfectly round, slightly raised on the paper. She touched it gingerly, slightly tacky, but dry. Old ketchup, probably. "What's that?" asked Marcos, her shift manager, passing behind her. "Nothing," Jessica replied, crumpling the napkin. "Just trash." Marcos moved on. At 25, he took his position seriously, walking the floor with shoulders squared. Jessica had worked with him for almost a year and found him fair, if somewhat rigid about procedures. On the third day, there was another napkin. This time, the red dot was larger, and when Jessica touched it, her fingertip came away with a faint reddish tint. Not ketchup. The color was wrong, too bright, too artificial. The fourth napkin appeared on her day off. Her coworker, Alyssa, texted her about it. Someone left a weird napkin at your register. Red mark on it. Marcos threw it away. Said to tell you if you saw who was leaving them. Jessica stared at the message, a cold feeling settling in her stomach. She hadn't told anyone about the napkins. How did Marcos know they were specifically for her? When she returned to work, she approached Marcos as he counted the till. Alyssa said you found a napkin at my register? Marcos looked up. Yeah. Weird, right? Any idea who's leaving them? No, Jessica said. How did you know they were for me? Your name was on it. Just your first name, written small beneath the red mark. Jessica felt her pulse quicken. What did it look like? The mark? Like a tiny smiley face. Marcos frowned slightly. You really don't know who's doing this? She shook her head. The previous napkins hadn't had her name or smiley faces. Just dots that got progressively larger. If you see more, let me know, Marcos said. Could be a customer with a weird sense of humor. Or maybe a crew member playing a prank. A week passed. No more napkins. Jessica relaxed, thinking it had been someone's odd joke. Her routine resumed: classes, work, study, sleep. Then she found the photograph. It was tucked inside her locker after a busy Friday night shift. A Polaroid-style photo showing her face, taken from a distance. She was standing at her register, unaware of being photographed. A crude red smiley face had been drawn over her face. Jessica's hands trembled as she turned the photo over. On the back, in red ink, "You have a pretty smile." She went immediately to Marcos, who examined the photo with a deepening frown. This isn't a joke anymore, he said. We need to report this. The district manager arrived within the hour. They reviewed security footage, but Jessica's locker was in a blind spot out of camera range. I'm filing a police report, the district manager decided. We'll change the employee entrance code and make sure someone walks you to your car after shifts. The police officer who took her statement was professional but not particularly alarmed. This type of harassment is common in food service, he explained. Usually it's a customer who's developed a fixation. We'll increase patrols during your shifts, but there's not much more we can do without identifying the individual. That night, Jessica checked her apartment locks twice. She lived alone in a small one-bedroom. For the first time, the solitude felt threatening. The next day, she requested to be moved to the drive-thru window, away from direct customer contact. Marcos accommodated her without question. 3 uneventful days passed. Jessica began to breathe easier, thinking the increased security had discouraged her stalker. Then, retrieving her jacket from her locker, she found a small red envelope. Inside was a McDonald's receipt, her receipt, from her lunch 2 days earlier at a completely different location. On the back, in red ink, "You shouldn't eat alone." Someone had watched her on her day off. Had been close enough to take her discarded receipt. Jessica went straight to Marcos, who called the police immediately. The officer was more concerned this time, taking the receipt as evidence and asking detailed questions about her routine. Start varying your schedule, the officer advised. Different routes to work and school. Different lunch spots. Stay with a friend if you can. Jessica had no one nearby to stay with. That night, she pushed her dresser in front of her apartment door and slept with her cell phone in her hand. The next morning, she called in sick. Marcos was understanding. Jessica spent the day in her apartment, jumping at every sound. By evening, the walls seemed to be closing in. She needed air. She walked to the convenience store 2 blocks away, reasoning that a public place would be safe. This is just the beginning of the nightmare. What follows will make you question who you can trust when nowhere feels safe. Asterisk asterisk. The convenience store was empty except for the clerk. As Jessica paid for ice cream and popcorn, her phone chimed with a text. Unknown number. The ice cream will melt if you take too long getting home. Jessica froze, her eyes darting around. There was no one visible, no cars passing by. You okay? The clerk asked. Did you see anyone outside? Watching the store? The clerk looked past her to the empty parking lot. No. Just you tonight. Jessica ran all the way back to her apartment. She called the police, showing them the text when they arrived. We'll try to trace the number, the officer said. But these are often sent from burner phones. Is there anyone who might want to frighten you? An ex-boyfriend? Someone from work who you've rejected? I don't have an ex. I haven't dated anyone seriously since high school. And I don't think it's someone from work. I'm friendly with everyone, but not close to anyone except maybe Marcos, my manager. Your manager? Tell me about your relationship with him. Professional, Jessica said quickly. He's been really supportive through all this. Has he ever expressed any personal interest in you? Jessica felt a flicker of doubt. Marcos had always been appropriate, but he was often the one to walk her to her car. He had responded immediately to her concerns. He knew her schedule, had access to her locker. No, she said finally. Never anything inappropriate. Around 2 a.m., her phone chimed again. Unknown number, sweet dreams. Jessica turned off her phone and spent the rest of the night with the lights on. She called in sick for 2 more days. On the 3rd day, Marcos texted her. Asterisk, we're worried about you. Can I drop by after my shift? Bring you some food? Asterisk. Jessica stared at the message. If Marcos was her stalker, inviting him to her apartment would be dangerous. Thanks, but I'm staying with a friend, she lied. I'll be back tomorrow. The next morning, Jessica arrived at McDonald's early to talk to the opening manager, not Marcos, about her concerns. Linda, the morning manager, listened sympathetically. That's terrifying, she said. Have you considered that it might be Marcos? He does seem very attentive to the younger female employees. Has anyone complained about him before? Linda hesitated. Not officially. But there's been talk. A girl who worked here last year said he would show up places where she was. She quit suddenly. Jessica watched Marcos carefully during her shift. Nothing in his behavior seemed threatening, but she noticed how often his gaze found her, how he positioned himself to keep her in sight. On her break, Jessica sat alone in the crew room, trying to decide what to do. The door opened, and Marcos entered. How are you holding up? He asked. Okay, Jessica said, keeping her voice neutral. Just tired. I was worried when you didn't come in. Any more incidents? A text message, Jessica admitted. Somehow they knew I'd gone to the store, what I bought. Marcos frowned. That's escalating. You should stay with someone. I am, Jessica lied again. A friend from class. After her shift, Jessica declined Marcos's offer to walk her to her car, saying she was leaving with Linda instead. The next day passed without incident. And the next? Jessica began to wonder if she had been wrong about Marcos. Then Alyssa approached her, looking troubled. I need to show you something. She handed Jessica her phone, open to a text conversation with Marcos, asking questions about Jessica. When she'd returned to work. Whether she ever talked about him. If Alyssa knew where Jessica lived. He's been asking me stuff like this for weeks, Alyssa said. At first I thought he was just concerned. But it feels off. Jessica filed a complaint with McDonald's corporate office that afternoon. The police added the information to her case. Marcos was scheduled to be interviewed the next day. That evening, as Jessica parked outside her apartment, her phone chimed. Unknown number. Asterisk, you shouldn't have done that. Now I have to show you who I really am. Asterisk. Jessica ran to her apartment and called the police. While waiting, another text came. Check your email. With trembling fingers, Jessica opened her email. There was a new message containing only a video attachment. The video showed her apartment, her front door, then a key being inserted into her lock. The door opened, and the camera entered, panning across her living room, kitchen, and bedroom. Then the camera turned, showing a mirror reflection of the person filming. It wasn't Marcos. It was Linda, the morning manager. The woman who had encouraged her suspicions about Marcos. Who had access to employee files with Jessica's address. The video ended with Linda smiling, drawing a red smile across the mirror. As Jessica ran for the door, she found herself face to face with Linda, a red smile painted across her lips. "You have such a pretty smile," Linda said softly. "I've been waiting to see it up close." Jessica slammed the door, locking it as Linda began to knock. "Jessica? Let me in. We need to talk about Marcos. About what you've done to him." Linda's voice was calm, reasonable. "He's going to lose his job because of your lies. Because you couldn't see who was really watching you." The pounding stopped as police sirens approached. "They're coming for you, not me," Linda called. "I'm the concerned manager checking on my frightened employee. The one who warned you about the man stalking you." Jessica's phone kept chiming with texts from Linda. "They'll think you're unstable. Having paranoid delusions. Accusing innocent people." Through the peephole, Jessica saw two officers with Linda behind them, her expression concerned, the red lipstick gone. Jessica opened the door slightly. "I'm being stalked by my manager, Linda Wilson. She just sent me a video of herself inside my apartment. She had a key." One officer turned to Linda. "Ma'am, could we see some identification?" Linda's expression contorted with rage. She lunged forward, reaching for the gap in the door. Something flashed in her hand, the red marker, uncapped, like a tiny knife. The officers restrained Linda as she screamed accusations at Jessica, her facade crumbling completely. Later, Jessica learned the full story. Linda had been fired from 3 previous jobs for inappropriate behavior toward employees. She had changed her name each time, moving to new towns. Marcos had been the unwitting scapegoat in her elaborate game, a game she had played before. In Linda's apartment, police found hundreds of photographs of Jessica. Napkins with progressively larger red marks, testing the consistency of human blood as it dried. A duplicate key to Jessica's apartment. The red marker's metal tip had been sharpened and dipped in a mixture of lipstick and Jessica's own blood, taken from discarded bandages. Linda was charged with stalking, breaking and entering, theft of personal information, and attempted assault. She would be institutionalized after psychological evaluation revealed a severe delusional disorder. Jessica quit her job at McDonald's. Changed her phone number. Moved to a new apartment with a roommate. She would jump at unexpected texts for years afterward. Would check her locks compulsively each night. Would never again work a closing shift anywhere. But sometimes, when she looks in the mirror, she imagines she can see it, that red smile drawn across her reflection. And she wonders how many other Lindas are out there, watching from behind counters, memorizing routines, waiting for the perfect moment. Because the most terrifying predators don't hide in shadows. They hide in plain sight, wearing name tags, serving customers with practiced smiles, collecting small details about your life like others collect souvenirs. And they're always watching for someone like you. Thanks so much for watching. I can't express enough how much your support means. The likes, the comments, it all really helps the channel grow. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to hit that like button and share your thoughts in the comments below. I always take the time to read them. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss out on any new videos. See you next time.